Hi, this is Elisabeth Hancock, host of The Great Awakening. And this week, I thought I would take a look at what is in store for the future of humanity. And this is because last week I talked about cloning, which triggered quite a few people. And I realized that cloning is just one of those areas where we all have lots of fear around it. And I thought I'd go straight into what is the future of humanity. What do we have to look forward to? What do we have to come now that the deep state is being dismantled? What are the things that are going to change in our world with our help, of course? The more heart-led that we can become, the faster we can move into this new earth, as they say, which is essentially going to be a non-corrupt earth. So it's still going to look the same, but we're not going to have the deep state in power. And they're not going to be controlling everything from behind the scenes and essentially with their energetic spells pulling everything back to them. So, the future for humanity. From my research in my latest book, Human Origins, the Multiverse and Our Star Ancestry, I believe from my own research that there are quite a few things that are going to be coming into our world. And I wanted to talk about the positives, all the benefits, how our world is going to improve over the next few decades to give us some hope. I understand that this is a difficult time for many. We're moving into higher dimensions, and to do that, we have to let a lot of low vibrational energy, trapped energy, epigenetic memories, all these sorts of things go from our life, go from our body. And the result of this is that we are going to be moving into a much nicer, kinder, compassionate world where we are all nicer and kinder and more compassionate to each other. And this is going to create a ripple effect, which is going to be creating a much better world for our children. And the first area that I wanted to look at is the history of Earth. Now, because of timeline theory, I suspect that there have been many histories. Certainly, there's evidence of many civilizations that have risen and fallen on our planet. And I suspect that humans go back millions and millions of years on this planet because human DNA can be traced back 9 billion years and hasn't originated from our planet at all. But I think that the signs that we see of the sacred sites, of the pyramids, of the doorways in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the melted looking buildings, which show evidence of either solar flashes or energy weapons. I think these are showing us that there have been many, many different civilizations that due to catalytic events, whether these have been on purpose or whether they have been through natural disasters, who knows? But it means that we have had many, many civilizations here, and I suspect that there have been many different histories. I think that there is probably more than one story of humanity and the different civilizations, empires that we have. I suspect that timelines have been altered. If we're living in a reality where past, present, and future is happening at the same time, it means that timelines are not so weird as we may think. If we think every time that we make a choice in our life, every time that something changes in our life, we are moving essentially onto a new timeline. I suspect that there are some people on our world leaders, if you like, or the deep state, the cabal, who know how to tap into different timelines in order to change the course of history. But regardless of that, I suspect that there have been many different versions of history, but I do think that we will get one version of history because I don't think that history or reality is linear, but we will start to understand from the millions of texts that they have in the Vatican to the millions of texts that the Tibetan monks have been holding, and also the indigenous tribes with their stories as well. I suspect that we will get a version of our true history, of who humans really are, and of what we're actually doing here, what we're doing on this planet, and where we are heading next. Number two, I talk about a lot of working with the Galactic Federation, and this is an area which I know is highly ridiculed in many areas, But there is a lot of evidence to show that we have indeed been working with the Galactic Federation. The ex-Israeli secret space chief, Professor Eshed, talked about how we have been working with the Galactic Federation for decades when he retired. And he is one of the most prominent figures that has mentioned this. And there have been other prominent people talking about this as well. I suspect that we are working with benevolent off-planet civilizations. They possibly have many different names, but the Galactic Federation seems to be a name that is coming up. Maybe it is an umbrella heading to relate to the different benevolent off-planet species that have been working with us, or we can call them white hats. Whatever it is we want to call them, I suspect that we have been getting some help, and I think this is because we also do not come from this planet. As I said, our DNA can be traced back 9 billion years. I believe that we are a multitude of different species, some not from this planet, which is starting to show up in many, many different areas of our society. The elongated skull people who are being studied by the Mexican universities, these are showing that they do have trace amounts or some amounts of human DNA, but the rest is not terrestrial. So I believe that this is showing us that our heritage is far bigger than just this planet. And of course, if there are other people living on other planets, then why wouldn't they want to help their ancestors who are us? We are their descendants. We could say that the Galactic Federation is a group of people who are trying to free the Earth from the deep state. And the deep state has been running this Earth, this world, for a very, very long time, possibly thousands of years. However we want to view these different groups, these different people, then we will start to work with them more openly. And I suspect that they will be able to come out from behind the scenes and we'll be able to see more of what they have been doing behind the scenes. They have been working with the US military, probably other militaries as well, since the 1940s, 1950s. But they've been working behind the scenes because of a treaty that was signed with the regressive ETs. And so we have had parts of the different governments working with benevolent beings. And then we've also had the deep state working with regressive beings as well, who have been helping them, giving them more power, giving them access to advanced technology to be able to control the world and the people in it. These are people who have been possibly running the world for a very long time. And it got to the point where they possibly needed to have more power themselves to be able to continue controlling the masses as we started to wake up, and begin to see what was really going on around us. This mass awakening, I think, has been going on since the 1900s. And that's the same time that the Rockefellers, the Rothschild started to really clamp down. They created a terror every decade. We've had so much brainwashing going on. The education system is now so small and linear. I suspect there's been a lot of manipulation behind the scenes. And of course, then we had TV, which has also been created as a programming box. And I suspect it's no coincidence that they are called TV programs. So the benevolent as the benevolent secret societies and galactic federations and the help from behind the scenes starts to step forward, we will start to see more of this. Number 3, I think that new technologies will start to be made available, such as crystal-based technologies, which is called Vril and comes from the planet Era, which is located in the Pleiades. Billy Meyer, a Swiss farmer who had contact with the Pleiadians, talked about these people from planet Era. And they have gifted this technology to us to help us to heal our bodies and to create new technologies to enhance our plants. And it can even be used to power the planet. It can even be used as a source of free energy to power the planet as well. I think also we'll get some old technologies resurrected, possibly from the different civilizations that we had. I've talked about the free energy that was happening in our world as little as 200 years ago with the Tartarian Empire. We can see the old world buildings around us and the way that they were able to work with this free energy, with the domes, the metal spires, they were able to use this to bring in free energy from the ether or create the free energy using these Tesla coils. And also the bells ringing as well, the sound frequency, sound healing. Not only does the sound heal our bodies, but also we can capture or harness the sound and turn this into free energy as well. There have been many places around the planet where we have discovered ancient artifacts, old types of technology, advanced technology. I suspect that this is what they're really talking about in our myths, and they're talking about how this world actually used to be before it was shut down into, if you like, 3D, but shut down into a very controlled world and quite boring actually that we live in today. So we've been shut down into this corporate 9 to 5 working thing, this rat race thing, this education where kids are so busy going to school and then studying for exams, and everyone is so busy that we don't have time to even explore these sorts of things. So I suspect also that old power grids and ancient power sites will also be reactivated and connected. And there's a huge discussion around what the pyramids actually are. But the fact that we now have technology that can record the frequencies from within the pyramids and from outside the pyramids and compare them is showing us that these pyramids are generating some sort of energy. And all energy can be tapped into, harnessed, and turned into something else, as we know. So we're seeing that whether the pyramids were designed as generators or whether they had multiple uses, we will find out in time. But the fact that there are at least 5,000 pyramids around the world, dotted in certain places where energy ley lines cross, where large amounts of energy ley lines are, I think is showing us that this is some sort of energy system. Whether this is beneficial to us or negative to us, who knows? But we will be able to have access to understanding how this ancient technology has worked and then choosing if we want to use this for ourselves in our world. But I think what we understand now is that we never needed fossil fuels, and we certainly don't need them now. There are many other ways that we can create power sources, energy sources for ourselves. And I don't think that nuclear power is something that we should be having in our world either. Even though the schools are busy teaching this as a strong form of energy that we can use, I think nuclear is something which we really need to let go. And certainly when the extraterrestrials visited Eisenhower in the 1950s, at that time, we were told that we could receive help in extending our life, in reducing poverty, reducing famine, healing our bodies. We would be given all of these resources, all of this technology, if we would agree to stop using nuclear, or at least not using nuclear weapons. And it was decided at that time not to agree to this because it was during the Cold War, and they felt that this would be something that may have repercussions later for them. Unfortunately, that means that we've gone for 80 years without these healing technologies. And we've still had the deep state very much in control. And really, this sort of breaks my heart when we think of the amount of people who have died when they shouldn't have died. We should have had this life-extending technology, the healing technologies, the free energy technologies, the plant and food enhancement technologies. We shouldn't be having poverty and famine in our world in 2024. And the fact that we do, I think, is the perfect example of how the deep state are still controlling this world. So also, it's looking like the communication systems will move away from electromagnetic communication systems, which are actually quite harmful to the human body. And we'll be moving into a new quantum communication system, which is not harmful to the body. So when we're understanding with Wi-Fi's technology that we have today, with the amount of radiation that's coming off all of the phones, the laptops, our houses are filled with Wi-Fi energy waves, which are highly damaging to the human body. There are now studies showing that Wi-Fi and the increasing of Wi-Fi moving up to 5G is affecting our health. And this is something which, again, has been suppressed for a very long time. Once again, it's been put into the category of conspiracy theory and ridiculed, but it is hurting our health and it is hurting the health of our children. So once we have woken up to this and accepted it, we can then let our scientists work on finding new ways, healthier ways for the body, for us to be able to use our technology. And quantum communication system is a part of that. And we are being gifted that again from the benevolent extraterrestrials, we can call them, or groups of people, our ancestors, whatever we want to call them. We're being gifted this technology, this information to be able to use the quantum communication systems instead of electromagnetic. We are also going to be moving into the financial system as well. And the corrupt fiat currency system is going to be replaced with a quantum-based system, which will be monitored and regulated off-planet. And this means that it will not be able to be hacked by the corrupt deep state. And it means that we will be able to move away from their black magic spells that they have been doing, which always allows them to pull money away from us. It's no coincidence that we are taxed up to 7 times on everything that we have. And it's moving it back round to them. So these energetic spells, because essentially we live in multiple energy fields in a massive energy field, when we understand that energy fields is running everything, then the people who know how to harness these energy fields, which is what spells are able to pull this money, the corrupt fiat system, back round to them, which is what they've been doing since the times of Babylon. And now we'll be able to take this, it will be monitored and managed off planet. And it also means that it will not be able to be hacked. And we will not have these every 10 years, we get some sort of economic disaster where the housing market crashes, the stock market crashes, whatever that may be. I suspect that these are also engineered crashes. All of this is engineered, wars as well. It's all engineered to create more misery, more fear, more suffering in our world. But ultimately, it creates more money for the deep state because they use it to siphon off our money. And then they use this money to fund their activities in the world. And looking at the medical industry. So you'll already know from listening to my other podcasts that I'm no fan of the pharmaceutical company. They've already been proven to be the 3rd biggest killer in the US. So we know that drugs don't heal our bodies, and the pharmaceutical company has never said that drugs heal our bodies. But unfortunately, they're allowed to do marketing and sales around drugs. And they've also done a very, very good pitch on all of the medical institutions, academic institutions, which they fund with millions and billions of dollars. So it makes sense that there's been a big brainwashing effect going on around what our health is, what can heal us, and actually how the body works. We didn't need drugs because the body is actually self-healing. But unfortunately, there are many millions and millions of people in this world who believe that they do. And belief is everything. So although we're going to be moving into new holographic technologies, before we get there, we're going to be bridging the gap between with stem cell research and using stem cells to heal the body and gradually moving away from the pharmaceutical drug-based industry. And when we understand more about beliefs and we work on our own beliefs, we can understand that even aging has now been discovered to be largely down to beliefs. If we believe that we're going to age, then we do. And I think it's no coincidence that the films are full of people in their 60s and 70s who look like old grannies in their 90s. I think that, again, this is something that we're being brainwashed continuously, old age, old age, old age. So we have to really let these beliefs go and understand that beliefs are shaping and creating our reality, creating our life, and we need to work more on our beliefs around that. But in the meantime, we have these great holographic technologies coming in. And in fact, there's actually other different technologies as well. There will be holographic ones that that can grow new limbs on the body. There'll be ones that can use the holographic field, if you like, to bring in information from your younger self, information from your healthier self, and bring it back into the body so that then you have a blueprint, and then your DNA will replicate based on that blueprint, the blueprint of when you had optimal perfect health. Again, this may sound crazy, it may sound like something from a sci-fi film, but I also think that a lot of the sci-fi films that we've been shown on our TV, there's a lot of truth in these as well. Okay, so the next one is education and schools will change and will start to work with the spirit of the child. And this is something that I've been trying to work on myself with my own children because we were doing homeschool. But unfortunately, homeschool at the moment is just not set up enough. It's not structured enough. And it means that the children can become very lonely. And, I think children need friends. We need to get to a point where we can change the education curriculum and first of all be teaching them true history, teaching them not about wars, because we don't want that to happen in our world. All it does is create trauma in the minds of our children, which actually means that they start to grow up depressed. This is something which has been going for decades and decades, as we've been teaching our children in the wrong way. We need to work with their essence, with their spiritual essence. And we need to teach in a more empathetic, compassionate, and I suspect spiritual, which in my mind just means energetic way. And working with the energy, the subtle energy fields that our planet consists of, essentially the multidimensional self. We are not one-dimensional, we are multidimensional. And I think that education needs to be reflecting that when we're teaching and working with our children. We'll also start to have off-planet teaching as well. So there will be, for example, in the Pleiades, they teach how to terraform planets. And this technology is now being used to terraform Mars and bring it back to a habitable planet again. It was a lush planet like Earth until something happened, some catastrophic events happened in our solar system and wiped out the atmosphere of Mars and possibly many other planets at the same time, possibly even destroying a complete planet, which is now what we call the asteroid belt. So we will be able to change these planets, make them habitable. We already have the space program, which is being led by the US. We now have 43 countries that have signed up and joined. And this is also going to be looking at extending out from our planet and extending into the moon and Mars as well, which of course Elon Musk is doing. So it then makes sense that we are going to have, or we already have, the technology to be able to terraform these planets so that we can use them again. And of course, secret space programs will start to come out in the open. Some have been very negative and damaging to the human psyche. And then others now, the beneficial ones, the positive ones, we will start to see more and more about these as we start to then move out into space, if you like, move out into other planets. We will also have anti-gravity and teleportation systems, which will start to replace our current transport system. So as I said before, we don't need fossil fuels, and we need to find healthy ways to be able to power our planet and the energy sources around that. I've talked about free energy and how I suspect that is coming back. I think it's something that the Tartarian Empire were already using. So it means it's already in our collective and we just have to bring it back now. But we also have other types of technologies as well, which we'll be able to tap into and start using to power our planet. And I suspect that this will allow our cars. We already have anti-gravity technologies. This is something that apparently the Nazis were given during the war, 1940s, which helped them to create actual UFO-looking craft, which they then use, as I talked about last week, to even fly over the US and show the US what technology they had. But thinking about the electric car that we have now, it's never made much sense to me. I don't understand it. It's causing chaos in the world. Not only are people being put into very dangerous situations where they have to mine the lithium, but there's no way of recycling the lithium. So it makes me think, well, why was this even invented? Why was it even created? We can see many images and photos of people in the 1800s, which was the Tartarian Empire, using electric cars. So this is showing us that at that time they had electric cars. How did they power the electric cars? We can also see images of buildings that have huge amounts of lights all over them. Again, these old world buildings, huge amounts of lights. How did they power all of these lights when these images are actually said to be before the invention of electricity and the light bulb? So it shows us that they were indeed using a type of energy which they were possibly pulling in from the ether, and they were using this to power their electric cars, which makes me think that the electric car is actually the stopgap between where we are now and where we're heading. And it's actually going to be again powered in the same way that the old world Tartarian Empire or the people in the 1800s were using. It will be the same type of energy, accessed in the same way, and that will be used to power our cars. And then eventually, using the anti-gravity technology, our cars will literally be flying above the ground. And this is coming. Again, how long it will take will again depend on how long it takes to get the deep state out. And the more empathetic, compassionate, caring, kind, and loving we can become as a humanity, the faster we can leave the deep state behind, because they literally won't be a vibrational frequency match to us anymore. And we will be moving beyond 4.5D, which is a frequency range that they are too low frequency to get to that range. They will not be able to get to beyond 4.3D, and neither will the interdimensional beings and entities as well. So the faster we can create this high vibrational, positive collective of our own, the faster we can move into 4D, 5D, and leave these negative deep state people behind. I think it's no coincidence that science was split into two different areas, and science was given to the scientists, and the other half of science, which we call spirituality, was given to the church, and they were managing that for hundreds of years. And this meant that they've managed to manipulate our beliefs around what spirituality is, what multiple dimensions are. And quantum physics is showing us the truth of this now, which is all beginning to come out. So it's a very exciting time to be alive. But again, all of this is going to be changing over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And we've got a lot of things to look forward to. So another area is obviously all the oceans will be cleaned using advanced technologies. And we will also have free access to clean water, food, and shelter. And this means with these new technologies, it means that we'll be able to branch out and move into other parts of the world that have been inhabitable for us so far. We already are able to modify the weather, but it can be done obviously for positive or negative reasons. I suspect that it has been done for negative reasons for at least 100 years, if not more. We'll be able to use this weather modification technology for positive reasons in our world and start changing the weather so that we can stretch out. We will all be able to have our own houses, our own gardens, grow our own food, because that is actually the most nourishing way for the body, is to grow our own food if it comes straight from the ground. We'll obviously have plant enhancement technologies as well, which has already been shown to increase the size of the vegetable, the fruit, 3 times the size, and helping us to grow much bigger and better and healthier versions of our plants. It means that we can get out of the polluted cities. They'll no longer have the pollution because the fossil fuels are going, so people can choose to live in cities if they want. There'll possibly be even technologies to have floating cities, as we see in so many of our sci-fi movies. And it's really, when we understand that our beliefs create everything, it's really a matter of, we need to start dismantling all these limitations, all this limited thinking that we have around what we can do in our life, what we can do in our world. We can start to inspire our children's minds again and help them to create this fantastic world that we are all dreaming about. Let's just take the limitations off. Let's just take all the limiting beliefs off and see what type of world we can create together. We will also have, as I said, new technologies to extend human life. But this is an area that Harvard scientists are already studying. They have now been able to prolong the life 2-3 times of mice. And again, it's looking at the telomeres. So the telomeres really are something which we have had that genetically altered in us, which has actually created a shorter lifespan. Now, this shows intelligent design. It's not something that could have been done naturally, which shows that we have been genetically altered, genetically downgraded. And I suspect that we've been genetically downgraded in many ways, not just the length of our life. So we already are able to extend our life. And the fact that we can do this now in mice and means that we can do it also in humans. I'm sure that there are already companies doing this for humans, and we will get this information, this technology back into our collective consciousness so we can start benefiting from it as well. And finally, some of us will decide to go off planet, just like every other civilization has done before us. I think it's no coincidence that there is 270 references in the religious texts about arcs, picking up people, collecting people, and taking them away during catalytic events. I think that this is showing us that this has happened many, many times in our past, which means it can also happen in our future as well. I'm not saying that we necessarily need to leave this planet, but I think it would be nice to have the choice. I think this planet is beautiful. Once we have sorted it out and got the new technologies back in again, we'll be able to spread out. The weather is better. We're not being suppressed. We're not being manipulated. All of these things, once this is changed, this planet is going to be absolutely incredible and beautiful to live on. And many of us will not want to leave. But some of us, if we are explorers at heart, or maybe we've actually come from other civilizations, other planets ourselves. Some of us may want to explore other civilizations, other stars, other planets, whatever that may be, and whatever space looks like. And they will have the opportunity to go and do this as well. So that's all for today. That's the future of humanity based on the research that I've done. Whether this information is true, who knows? But I think it's quite a nice, hopeful way of looking at the future. And it's also helping us to shape our beliefs, because our beliefs create our reality. So let's change our beliefs and start believing in a better world ourselves. Okay, take care for this week, and I'll catch up with you soon. All right, bye.